Elbow, forearm, he's going to be down.
The result of the play is a touchdown.
And then the flag that was thrown on this was picked up.
I don't know, did it get the face mask?
So by rule, the game is over.
The Lions Hangover.
Hello, everybody. It is Brad. Welcome back to the Lions Hangover podcast. After a much-needed hiatus, the Lions have made some news in my absence, and now I am back to talk about all of that news. But first, don't forget you can find me on all social medias. You know, the Twitter. Pretty active on Twitter. I got the Instagram and I got the Facebook. Follow wherever you get your most pleasure from. So let's just start off at the beginning. At the beginning of the offseason, there were big worries that the Lions offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, was going to leave. He was a strong candidate for Carolina as reports were coming out. I know this is just such old news, but I haven't talked about it, so we are going to cover it now. We're going to cover everything leading up to the draft. But anyway, the Lions retained Ben Johnson. They gave him a big raise. Shortly after, they gave Aaron Glenn a big raise as well, just to show their appreciation to both coordinators of the offense and the defense. What a huge relief it was that Ben Johnson was coming back, because without Ben Johnson, I would be a strong supporter of drafting a quarterback in this year's draft, a strong starting quarterback in this year's draft. I would probably want to trade up and grab somebody, not C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young, maybe Will Levis, but only time will tell on who would have been the person to pick. But anyway, we'll talk about quarterbacks in the draft in a little bit. So they retained Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, as we said, and then they started signing people. And at first it seemed like, oh, okay, we're just going to do the status quo. Let's bring back John Kaminsky. He said he wanted to come back, so the Lions signed him for 2 years, $8 million. And then Alex Anzalone, who wanted to test free agency just a little bit. He ends up signing with Detroit for a 3-year contract at $18 million a year. And then the Lions made the big splash. They got Cam Sutton, 3 years for $33 million. He is a shutdown cornerback. He's a young dude. He's a leader on and off the field. That is a good grab there. I know the Pittsburgh Steelers are pretty upset about that. And then they wanted to sign Jamal Williams, who apparently wanted something similar to what David Montgomery got. Or the Lions offered him something similar to what they ended up signing David Montgomery for. And Jamal Williams felt disrespected by that. The Lions were not messing around, so they signed David Montgomery, which is an upgrade. He can do everything. He can run. He can catch. He is solid. He's still pretty young. They signed him for 3 years at $18 million. Jamal Williams ends up signing in New Orleans, 3 years for, I don't know, like a portion of that, $12 million, something like that. And then Jamal Williams started kind of flapping his trap a little bit. And I was a big Jamal Williams fan, but this seems to be 2 teams in a row, coming from the Packers and now coming from Detroit. He seems to have sort of the same message, that he was disrespected and they didn't want him around anymore, which, you know, you say that one time and it's like, okay, maybe the Packers didn't like him. So he signs with Detroit. He's treated well here. And Detroit made a pretty good contract offer to him, but apparently he felt he was worth more. So then he signs for much less than what the Lions offered him. So maybe him and his agent had miscommunications about the situation, but what happened made no sense. And then for him to blame the organization afterward it's kind of a classless move, in my opinion. However, the Lions come out the winners on this. They wasted no time, and they signed David Montgomery, who I am a fan of, from the Chicago Bears. I know the Bears are going to miss him this season, so hopefully he can make a huge impact for us. And then Lions not done with their defensive backs. They signed Emmanuel Mosley to a 1-year deal. He's coming off of an injury, coming from San Francisco. And all of these guys, they got relatively cheap too. Not really overpaying for anybody. Maybe Sutton a little bit, but his promise is high. His potential is high. His ceiling is high. So well deserved there. And Emmanuel Mosley, I think they signed for $8 million for 1 year. Kind of a prove it deal, much like DJ Chark last year. Mosley just coming off of an injury, so they're going to give him a contract and some time to figure out if he can hang and play, and who knows what happens in the future. If not, super happy to get him this year. I'm a big fan of Emmanuel Mosley and this signing. Then they signed Graham Glasgow as a depth piece and a competitor on the starting offensive line. Glasgow can play guard. He can play center. He will compete directly with Vaitai and Romeo Okwara, sorry, working out my vowels here. It's been a while since I've spoke. They're taking huge pay cuts. Romeo Okwara, or Vaitai, went from $9.4 million to $1.21 million. Huge pay cut just to stay in Detroit. So that's good. I got the Romeo Okwara numbers here. Okwara went from $11 million to $2 million. So he's taking a huge pay cut. That created $9 million in cap space, which allowed them to then sign C.J. Gardner-Johnson from the Philadelphia Eagles. This was kind of a surprise move and sort of an exclamation point on the free agent signings of the season. Philadelphia thought they could get him back. Apparently he wanted a long-term, more money deal from Philadelphia, and they didn't want to do that. I believe guaranteed money had to play, so he came to Detroit for a 1-year deal. He has history with Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn from their time in New Orleans. So, right off the bat in free agency, the Lions have 3 key defensive backs with Cam Sutton, Emmanuel Mosley, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And then just as free agency was sort of winding down, it's still open for a little bit, but just as all the big players were getting signed at the front, the Lions also added Marvin Jones Jr., wide receiver. Of course, we had him a few years ago, and then he left to play in Jacksonville for a little bit, and now he is back. He sort of takes the DJ Chark roster spot, and it turns out that perhaps he was also signed because the Lions were given a heads up that Jameson Williams was going to be suspended for the start of the season. He was going to... Yeah, that cough is still there, right? Brought that cough back with me from the hiatus. Anyway, Jameson Williams suspended for gambling inside of Lions facilities, which is a big no-no. They also cut Cephas, and I believe it was DJ Moore and one other person. They cut Cephas and Moore because they were actually gambling on NFL games. They let go of other personnel that worked for the Lions, and Jameson Williams was suspended because he was just gambling on sports in general inside of any NFL facility. You are not allowed to gamble on. That's to maintain the integrity of the game. 6 games is the suspension, and I kind of feel like 6 games is a bit much, especially for a first-time offender. I know they want to come down hard and make an example for anybody that is gambling and breaking the rules. But I feel like 6 games is a little much. I think 3 games would be more appropriate, maybe even 4. I don't know if this is a suspension that he can appeal or argue his case. I do know that everybody is told from day one, do not gamble on football. Do not gamble inside of a NFL facility. And all he had to do was just go across the street and place his bet, but that is not what happened. I don't know what he was thinking. At first, I wasn't so mad at him. I was more mad at the policy. I think it's kind of stupid. Now, I'm all in favor of harsh punishments for anybody that gambles on an NFL game. If an NFL player is betting on an NFL game, I am huge favor of strong punishments there. But gambling in general, it's legal in most states now. It's easy to do on your phone, and I kind of feel like that should be a little bit more lenient. But my opinion doesn't matter, and now Jameson Williams is suspended for the first 6 games of the season. He is allowed to participate in all of the preseason activities, so he will be at training camp. He will play in the preseason games, or he'll be eligible to play for the preseason games. But as soon as the season starts, he has to stop playing. He will be eligible to return week 4 for practice, and he will be eligible to return for his first game week 7. So hopefully that's not going to be a bye week. Hopefully we will have like a bye week, week 10 or 11. That would be ideal. That way we wouldn't have to go an extra week without Jameson, although who knows, maybe that would help his situation out. And then when it was all said and done, Jeff Okudah, cornerback, defensive back, who had his ups and downs as a Detroit Lion, 3 years on the team, was traded to Atlanta for a 5th-round pick. Now, the Okudah trade happened before the Jameson Williams suspension was made public. So at that point, when Okudah was traded, everybody says that the Lions are a lock to pick either Witherspoon or Gonzalez with their first pick of the draft. I don't know how likely that is, but as soon as Jameson was suspended, everybody started freaking out, and they're like, oh, now they have to draft a wide receiver. I definitely disagree with this. I think the Lions are going to be okay on offense with or without Jameson Williams. They played 80% of the season without him last year. He was barely on the field. He was barely integrated, and the Lions had a number 1 offense. And if your argument is, oh, well, they still had DJ Chark. DJ Chark was injured for the first half of the season as well. He was in and out of games. He was not, he didn't have a strong presence. DJ Chark caught less than 40 balls last year. Less than 40. He came on strong late in the season, mostly when Jameson Williams was returned. So, Marvin Jones is a reliable guy. He is a durable guy. I believe he's here strictly because of the Jameson Williams suspension. Marvin Williams is much like Amon-Ra St. Brown. He catches everything. He's a great guy. I think the Lions' offense is going to be okay, especially with Ben Johnson returning. Now, as far as the draft is concerned, will they take a defensive back with their first pick or their second pick? I say it is very possible. There's no guarantee that the Lions are going to take Jalen Carter. To me, I don't feel like we need any defensive linemen. I think our defensive line is stacked in the middle and on the edges. You can always add depth everywhere, but that is true for every position. You can always upgrade. That is true for every single position. Now, I know Jalen Carter has issues or potential issues. Do the Lions want to roll the dice on him after some Jameson Williams drama? I don't know. I know he's a tremendous talent, but so is Devin Witherspoon, and that would be my pick if I had to pick. The Lions only have 2 defensive backs under contract next year. The Lions are solid at every position except linebacker and quarterback. Those are the only 2 positions where they lack depth, and I believe that will be addressed this draft as well. So everything they draft is for the future. So look for them to draft a defensive back. Look for them to draft offensive linemen. They're potentially going to draft a running back, DeAndre Swift. He's in his last year of his contract. They're not going to pick up any extension for him. They're probably not going to re-sign him unless he has a stellar year. If he has any year like he's had in the past where he's injured on and off the field, he's missing games, DeAndre Swift will not be back. So look for them to draft another running back. I know some people have mock drafted Bijan Robinson. That's his name, right? Bijan. I know you guys know who I'm talking about. They drafted him to the Lions at pick 18. He is supposed to be a generational player, but running backs just are not valued like they used to be. So it's up in the air if the Lions would draft somebody like him at pick 18. Now, I keep hearing rumors that, the Lions need a tight end. I disagree. I think the Lions are completely content with where they are at with tight end. They traded Hutchinson to Minnesota for pretty much nothing. They swapped picks. That was it. And they gave away Hutchinson. Hockenson. My bad. So they traded Hockenson to Minnesota. And he was a premier player on the offense. He was not Mr. Consistent. I know the Lions did not always use him in the game plans, but he is all pro. He went to the Pro Bowl his first year, did he not? He was a solid piece, solid tight end, but the Lions drafted Mitchell last year, tight end. They've got Brock Wright, and they've got Zylstra. They already have 3 tight ends on the roster that I can think of off the top of my head. I don't feel this is a position that they use in the offensive scheme that Ben Johnson runs. I do not think they value a tight end. They might draft a tight end, but it's going to be low in the draft. It's, you're talking 4th round and later. I don't think they're looking to make a splash at tight end. It would not make sense to me because Hockenson had time left on his contract. Why would you get rid of Hockenson if you wanted a valuable tight end? So that's my thought on the tight ends. So I think they could draft a wide receiver. That's going to be a little bit later in the draft. I do think they're going to draft a quarterback. The higher they draft a quarterback will tell you what they think about Jared Goff and the future of him at or with the Detroit Lions. I don't see them drafting a quarterback in the 1st round. I don't necessarily see them drafting a quarterback in the 2nd round, but I hear Hendon Hooker's name is out there. I hear that the Lions like Hendon Hooker. I would not be opposed to this. Of course, the Lions have also made it public that there is a contract offer out there for Teddy Bridgewater. I am not a big Teddy Bridgewater fan. He would be an upgrade at backup quarterback, but is he really somebody that you trust the offense with should Jared Goff get hurt? I don't know. I do think Ben Johnson is an offensive genius. Maybe that's giving him too much credit. He's only been the offensive coordinator for a season and a half, so maybe this is all fluky stuff, but whatever they have going in Detroit with Jared Goff and Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell, it seems to be working, so you have to give credit to Ben Johnson. He basically raised Jared Goff's career from the dead. Before he became the OC, Jared Goff was just continually to spiral down, especially coming from LA, where he was struggling. So Ben Johnson is definitely getting all of the credit, but they also have a tremendous financial responsibility to Jared Goff. So there is a possibility that they could draft a quarterback sooner than later. I'm good. Ultimately, I don't care what the Lions do. If I had to make picks, like I would be drafting a specific way, but whatever they decide to do, I trust them. This regime is working out so far. They have a couple questionable draft picks with Levi Onwuzurike, who can't seem to get on the field because of his back injury. They were aggressive with Jameson Williams, and he hasn't quite panned out yet. It's nothing to panic about, but he hasn't panned out yet. Aleem McNeil, solid player, but still has yet to sort of hit his stride and make a name for himself, but he's a good depth piece. He is solid along the defensive line. But overall, I feel comfortable with Brad Holmes drafting. I feel comfortable with Dan Campbell getting his input on what players he needs, and all of the other coaches. I am comfortable with everybody. So whatever happens at this draft, I am good with. I'm totally good with. Whatever they decide, even if it's a player that I don't like, I will still reserve my opinion and see what happens. I'm real excited about it. The draft is only 2.5 days away. It's coming up on Thursday. Today is Tuesday, so I guess that's just 2 days. I don't know, depending on how you want to count the days. You can count today as 1 day, so Thursday would be 3 days away, or we're halfway through it, so it's 2.5 days away. Or if you want to start counting tomorrow, Wednesday, so the draft is really a day away if you just want to count tomorrow, or you guys get where I'm going with this. Yeah, so that's pretty much my rant about free agency and the draft. I will do another post-draft show where I will talk about the players that they drafted, and I will break them down. I promise I will be back within a couple days of the draft with my 2 cents and everything that unfolds there. Again, don't forget to follow me on all of the social medias at The Lions Hangover on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And then I will also do one more show on what I feel like the proposed rule changes should be. There have been some rule changes, and other rule changes have been put off until the owners' meeting in May. And then I will take the rest of the summer off. I will take the rest of the summer off, and I will gear up for the official start of the next season with my season predictions sometime in August, right around preseason, just after preseason, something like that. So that's it for me. Thanks for listening. Hopefully I didn't run out of too much breath. Hopefully I still sounded like I knew what I was doing. So I hope you guys are doing well. Have a good draft. And I think that's it. Yeah, all right. Man, I ripped right through that stuff. All right. Take care, guys.